Hey everybody, Pooja Chilukuri here with Pooja Chilukuri Nutrition and Health, and your host for the Wellness Education Series Be Made Whole. Today I am really happy to interview one of my dear friends and colleagues, Marty Sloditski. Marty, welcome. It's good to
Thank
have you
you. Thank
join
you so
us.
much for having me here today.
Absolutely. I just going to read from Marty's bio because I don't think I'm going to do justice to everything and all her experiences just by talking about it. So Marty is a certified holistic health coach and a HeartMath coach certified by the Institute for HeartMath. Through her business, Master Your Stress, she offers two of the leading health programs, HeartMath and OptaVia. Marty worked for over 16 years in human resources, managing employee health and wellness benefits. She co-created and launched the company's first employee wellness program. She's a former member of WELCOA, the Wellness Council of America, from which she has earned numerous wellness certifications and the status of faculty member. Marty's passion is to help her clients explore solutions to reducing stress. And we all need that, Marty. So thank you so
Yes,
much
we
for
do.
joining us today to talk about it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
And I've known you a while and I know how passionate you have been, with all these lifestyle changes and being a coach. But I'm really curious as to what led you to heart math in particular. So if you would share with us some of your wellness journey and what led you to heart math.
Okay, sure. I'd love to do that. Um, I was led to stress management as far back as I can recall. When I was a teenager, and this is really going back pretty far, I was in a church play, and I remember getting ready for the play and feeling very anxious and recognizing the feeling as stress. I think that's the first time I really put a name to it. And I didn't like that feeling. So I kind of squelched it. I said, I'm not going to feel this way. I am going to feel happy that I'm doing something and I'm excited, something that I'm excited to do. So I think that's the very first recollection that I have about stress. So anyway, as I was making my journey through life, I stumbled upon human resources. It's just a job that I got into and was interested in, and did a lot with medical benefits. So in a way, I was working with wellness at that time. I really didn't know it. And the insurance companies, maybe about 20 years ago, did not have any preventive insurance. Everything was disease related. And it still now is not a healthcare system, it's a disease care system. But as I was working through that, I really recognized the importance of prevention. And I was thrilled when my company decided that they wanted to start the first employee wellness program. So I just jumped at that chance, and that was jumping out of my comfort zone. But I was working with the VP of Safety and Health, and we co-created the company's first employee wellness program. So through that, I was working with WELCOA, gaining certifications, and they started talking about this new emerging career called coaching, health coaching. And I thought, wow, that really seems to align with all of my passions throughout my life. I've always been interested in wellness and self-improvement, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And I was looking for a way to leave the corporate world and do something that would be more fulfilling to myself. So I was working, as I said, in the employee wellness program, and I stumbled upon HeartMath because one of the managers, the directors of the engineers of our company, they were having a meeting, a summit, and He asked me, he said, I'm noticing a lot of my engineers are manifesting these physical symptoms. And he was wise enough to notice that it was because of stress.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me if I could come and do a presentation on stress management. And in my research in preparing the presentation, I saw a recommendation for HeartMath. And I was very curious. I thought, wow, how could this help? I don't like to recommend anything to anyone unless I've tried it myself.
That's a wise thing to do.
So I downloaded the free app and I sent away for the sensor that clips to your earlobe. And I received it in the mail and I started using it. And I really didn't notice anything at first while I was using it and while I was going through the exercise. But I noticed about 3 days later that I was very productive in work. The little normal frustrations and interruptions weren't bothering me. I was able to think clearly. I didn't have that brain fog. And, excuse me, I was able to make great decisions. And I just felt wonderful. I just felt like I was firing on all cylinders. And the only thing I could attribute that to, the only change in my life, was this daily practice of using the HeartMath system. So that convinced me. I later, I always wanted to get that HeartMath certification for coaching, and I finally was able to do it in 2016. So that kind of led me to my journey to HeartMath.
That's, Marty, that's because I know that when we experience something, it's really different from just hearing about it, reading about it, or just knowing about it, right? You actually used the technology, you experienced it. So, then you can come from a different place of a deeper conviction when you're helping people, right? Because you know that it works. But a lot of people may have never heard of HeartMath. Like, I know for sure that I discovered it really late in my own wellness journey. So could you just explain what that, you're talking about the app, the sensor, the technology. Could you just explain a little bit what that is?
Okay, sure. HeartMath is a scientifically validated system that shifts us into a state of coherence by building our resilience to stress. Okay, so that's in a nutshell, and that really is a mouthful. And I'm going to break that down so that we can kind of understand what that means, because in talking to people, they don't readily understand what being in a state of coherence means, or resilience. Sometimes people don't understand what resilience is. So when I say building our resilience to stress, we first have to recognize what our stressors are. And they're not all good or all bad. If we didn't have any stress or pressure in our lives, we wouldn't get out of bed in the morning. So we do need stress in our lives, but there are some stressors that actually rob us of energy. And we want to do things that build our resilience to that. And what does that mean? It means helping us to prepare for stress, to adapt to it, and to be able to deal with it, to recover. So in other words, it means to be able to bounce back, to build up our strength against it, to have something to fight it with. So we do want to become resilient to stress so that we get into this coherent state. And what I was describing before, when I discovered how well I felt after 3 days of using the HeartMath system, being productive, feeling great, lifting that brain fog, being able to make good decisions, and not getting rattled by the daily hassles that I was encountering. These all are manifestations of being in a state of coherence. When you're in that state of coherence, the opposite of coherence is incoherence, when everything is jumbled up and crazy. But being in a state of coherence, you're composed, you're able to self-regulate your emotions. So with HeartMath, when I was talking about the sensor and the app, the science of HeartMath is that you could actually see in real time your heart rate variability. The technology of HeartMath gives you the ability to measure your pulse rate, and that's what you clip the sensor onto your ear, and you could see on in the app your pulse rate, and then it starts to show you, it calibrates, and it starts to show you what your heart rate variability is. And what that means is each beat of your heart comes at a different frequency. A heart does not beat like a metronome. So when you go to the doctor and your doctor takes your pulse rate and he or she says, you know, your pulse is 72 or 65 or whatever, that's an average. That's not your heart beating at 65 beats a minute like a metronome. Between each beat, there's a different frequency. So if you're in a state of incoherence, if you're frustrated, angry, upset, fearful, your heart rate variability shows on the technology in a very erratic pattern, going up and down and all over the place. But when you could shift yourself into that state of coherence, your heart rate variability shows much like a sine wave pattern, like little hills. And you could tell right away that you are shifting into that state of coherence.
So the technology will measure that, the app will measure that, and you just clip it to your ears.
Right. And I do tell people you can do the HeartMath exercises without using the technology and still gain the benefits.
So in order to improve the heart rate variability, you have those exercises, right? Can you show us one, or can you give us an example that we can maybe practice?
Sure. I would love to guide you through one if you'd like to do that now.
I think that would be wonderful. Yes, I think we would want to check this out.
Okay, great. So we'll take about maybe 3 minutes or so. Is that good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is just, sit up and just sit comfortably, but make sure that you have room for your breathing, your chest to expand and your belly to expand. You don't want to constrict yourself in any way. And just sit comfortably, and you can close your eyes or just lower your gaze, whatever feels comfortable to you. And start breathing. Inhale and exhale a little slower and a little deeper than you normally would, but nothing that is uncomfortable. Just keep it a nice steady pace. And now as you're doing that, concentrate on the area of your heart. If it helps you to do that, you can place your hand on your heart. And imagine that your breath is flowing in and out of your heart. And now what we're going to do to help us shift into that coherent state is to activate a positive, calm emotion And it could be love, gratitude, appreciation, whatever that feeling is for you, even just recalling the beauty of nature. And as you're imagining the breath flowing in and out of your heart, feel that feeling, that positive feeling. One feeling that we may want to focus on, especially during these troubled, uncertain times, is the feeling of compassion. So once you've locked onto that feeling, on your exhale, begin to radiate that feeling out. And on your inhale, draw it back into yourself and feel it in every cell of your body. And now start to radiate out that feeling of compassion to maybe the important people in your life. And broaden it out even further to anyone now who is suffering for any reason, or to all the frontline workers that are dealing with the pandemic, for all of the protesters, and let's just radiate out our compassion to them. And on your next exhale, or when you're ready, just bring your focus back to the room.
Thank you so much, Marty. That really felt good.
Oh,
I
good.
felt peaceful, but it woke me up too. So that's, that's interesting. I know this because I've been watching you do HeartMath for a while. Doesn't this technique have a name? I think there's a name that
Yes,
HeartMath is.
this technique, we started out with heart-focused breathing, which is just focusing on your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then by activating that positive emotion, we're shifting into quick coherence. And then by radiating out our feelings, first to ourselves and then to a certain group of people or a certain person, that is called the heart lock-in.
The heart lock-in, yes. That's the
Right.
one I couldn't remember. That is wonderful. I mean, I could feel it. It's a great technique to lower anxiety too. I think if you're in the middle of a stressful situation, being able to, but do you practice this every day? Is this something we could do every day to just build our resilience? Is that the idea behind it?
Definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that, Pooja, because this, we want to raise the baseline of
Mm.
our resilience. And by shifting into this coherent state and continuing a practice, we will continue to raise the baseline. And so we'll be able to deal with stress. So what I usually recommend to clients is just to start out by practicing 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes before you go to bed. It will help you to drift into sleep better, especially if you activate the emotion of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important to think about the things that we're grateful for, and a lot of times we know that we maybe should start a gratitude journal. So you could write down 3 or 5 things that you're grateful for, but activating that feeling of gratitude will help you to drift into that sleep state a little easier.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we shift our emotions and our energy, right? This
Hmm.
is wonderful, Marty. Thank you so much for having this conversation with, us today. If, and I'm ask everybody if they would give us like a challenge for the week. So I think you mentioned it. Do you just want to challenge us to do the 5 minutes?
Yeah, well, I would challenge you to do the 5 minutes, but if you can remember the steps that I just guided you through, I would challenge you to radiate out that feeling of compassion, because we are going through some pretty troubling times now, some uncertain times.
Mhm.
These can all elevate our stress level and the stress level around us. But by radiating out our compassion,
Mhm.
we have this electromagnetic field around us, and we really can affect others, the others in our lives, and people that we don't even know, just by radiating out our feelings. And I think everyone right now needs a lot of compassion.
And thank you for mentioning that, Marty, because personally, I've been feeling some helplessness, right? Like, what can I do to make
Mhm.
something better? And this is an easy thing that we can all do,
That's
right?
right. That's right.
Yes. Thank you so much. What if we wanted to get in touch with you? What is the best way for us to do that?
Well, there's 3 ways actually. I do have a website. It is Master Your Stress Coach. And I have a Facebook group, which is also Master Your Stress Coach, I believe. And I have a private Facebook group that's dedicated just to heart math. And you could request to join that. It's De-Stress with Heart.
De-stress with heart. And I actually highly recommend it. I am also in that group, and it's an opportunity to practice some heart math with you, right? And that
Yeah,
will
every
just
now
get
and then
us
I,
going.
I pop on there live, and we do go through some guided heart math techniques. So, and they are recorded there, so you can always go back and run through the exercise again.
Thank you so much, Marty. And thank you so much for joining us.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. It's my pleasure.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for watching. I'm really glad you joined us. I hope this has been very useful, and I will put all of Marty's information in the show notes. And until next time, be well.